Hi everyone, it's Barbara and welcome back to my channel. I have 4 Dollar Tree Christmas DIYs for you today, so let's jump right on into the first project. I am using this glass vase from Dollar Tree, and I used my hairdryer to loosen the glue so that I could easily remove the sticker from the bottom. Using some Waverly white chalk paint, I gave this 2 thin coats, allowing it to dry in between coats, and also made sure that I got the inside top part of the rim. Now that this has dried, I'm going to be decorating it using some pieces from a holly bouquet from Dollar Tree and also this branch from this poinsettia bouquet from Dollar Tree. To be able to put these together so they would sit a little more flush, I trimmed the backing off of the branch and then I glued that onto the greenery that came off of the holly bouquet. Then I used some of the berries that came on the holly bouquet and just cut a small bunch down and glued that to the front of the floral piece. I'm also going to be using some red and white cording. This came from Dollar General. I think it was Dollar General. And I just hot glued the floral pieces to the front of the vase. And then I'm going to take that cording and wrap it around the vase to cover up the stem part of the floral piece. I will secure that down with some hot glue on both ends and then go back in and cut those excess ends off. Once that's finished, I'm going to tie a simple bow around the top of the vase, just like you would tie a shoestring or make a bow on a shoestring, and then I will cut those tails to the length that I want them and then tuck them down behind the branches. And this project is complete. I love how this turned out. You could use it as it is, or you could put a stem or a bouquet of your choice in there. Moving on to the second project, I am using some of these dowels from this assorted wooden dowel piece from Walmart, and I picked out 5 of the same size dowels and laid those out until I had the desired shape for my star. And then I'm just going to hold that middle piece down and mark it with my pencil so that I will know where to put my glue after I glue these 2 outside dowels together. So I'm just going to overlap one on top of the other and just glue that down. And then I can glue that piece straight across. And then to attach the other 2 pieces, I will just put a dot of glue on each end of the dowels and then cross those over. Once I get those in place, I'm going to be wrapping each end of the star where the dowels meet with some hemp rope, or you could use jute rope or jute cord or whatever you have on hand. And I'm just going to hot glue that down on the back side of the star and then wrap that around until I get to the end. And once I get to the end, I will just tuck that string cording down on top of itself and kind of squeeze it together. I'm going to do that for all 5 points of the star. And I'm also going to do that where all of the dowels meet each other, where they connect. Once I have all of those wrapped up and the glue has set, I took my hairdryer and went over the entire piece to get any loose glue strands that were just hanging off of there. This just kind of made them go away, so I would have a nice finished look to be able to paint it. I again used some Waverly chalk paint in the color white, and I painted the entire piece front and back, including the hemp cord. In order to be able to attach some florals in the middle of the star, I am using some white burlap ribbon, and I'm just going to glue that into the center portion of the star and just wrap that around and hot glue it to itself. And it will take 2 small strands of the burlap ribbon. Once I get that in place, I'm going to decorate it with some of these white fern bouquet from Dollar Tree, and I've already used a couple of the branches on there, or the leaves. I just cut the leaves off, and since I'd already used some of them, I only had 4 of the full-size leaves and then a couple of the smaller ones. So I put the full-size leaves on the top 3 parts of the star, and then at the bottom I used those smaller branches. And I just secured all of that in place with some hot glue. Once all of those are in place, I'm going to use some pieces from the Holly Bouquet from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to place the greenery on the outside parts of the star. And then I'll go in and add some red berries wherever I think they look nice. And then I'll also add some pine cones. Now the Holly Bouquet only came with 3 pine cones, so I did have to use an extra pine cone in my stash so that I would have 4 pine cones on there. And then I'll add a couple of more berries. And I think this project is so beautiful. I love the way the red and the green and then the brown and the pine cones just really pops off of this white star. Let me know what you think of project number 2. If this is your first time to my channel, I hope you'll click that subscribe button and the bell icon below this video so that YouTube will notify you the next time I upload a new video. And if you have missed any of my previous Christmas videos, I will have a link to my Christmas playlist in the description box below if you are interested in watching any of those. Let's jump on into the third project. I was so excited to find these 2 LED wooden lanterns at Dollar Tree, and I'm going to remove the hanger and the tag and try to get it as flush to the top as possible, but I wasn't too concerned because I'm going to cover that up anyway. I gave this 2 coats of my Waverly white chalk paint, and I painted the entire piece except for the inside part of the lantern. After those 2 coats are dry, I am going to be decorating this using some lamb's ear from Walmart, and I just cut the leaves off. And then I'm going to just hot glue some of these leaves to the top of the lanterns, and I'm also using some of those berries left over from the Holly Bouquet. And I just chose to place like 2 of the larger leaves opposite of each other and 2 of the smaller leaves opposite. But of course you can just decorate it however you like. Before I put the berries on there, I'm going to create a bow using this red ribbon with the white snowflakes and some floral wire. Both of these came from the Dollar Tree. And I just determined about how big I wanted my loops to be for my bow, and then I'm going to create 4 loops on each side. So it'll be 8 loops total, and then I'll squeeze that center part together really tightly and then secure that down with some floral wire just by wrapping it around and making sure I keep it really tight and twisting it, and then fluffing my bow out. And then I'll cut the excess wire off and glue the bow right in the center of the leaves. And I'm going to do that for both of the lanterns. I found this ribbon at Walmart. They had 5 packs of different kinds of ribbon for $4.98. And I just wanted the Merry Christmas part off of this ribbon with the snowflake at the bottom. So I dovetailed the ends, and then I'm going to glue the top part of the ribbon in the center of the bow, and then drape it down off towards the side of the lantern. I am using some mini pine cones. These came in a large bag from Hobby Lobby when they were having their sale, but a Dollar Tree does sell some mini pine cones as well. And I just added 4 to the top of this lantern. And I'm going to do that for the other lantern as well. Then I went back in with some of those red berries and just placed them wherever I thought that they would look nice. And once I get the second lantern done and put those berries in, this project is complete. And I just love how they turned out. They're so cute, and you can set one up on a candlestick so they'll have different heights, and I think they're just beautiful. So moving on to our 4th project, I am using this silver plastic charger plate. This came from Dollar Tree. And again, I am going to use my Waverly white chalk paint. I gave this 2 thin coats, allowing each coat to dry before I proceeded to the next step. I am using a stencil. This came in a package from Walmart. They have quite a few stencils in there, and I've already used this on a previous DIY on a tote bag. So I just placed that in the center of the plate, and I used some of my painter's tape to hold that in place. And I'm using some of Folk Art's Christmas Red and a small tiny sponge brush from Dollar Tree. I like to get the paint on my sponge brush and then wipe most of it off. And then I am using an up and down pouncing motion so that it doesn't bleed underneath the stencil. While the paint is wet, I'll go ahead and remove the stencil. Ooh, it just turned out so pretty. And then I'll let that paint dry. I'm also going to take the sponge brush. I wanted to bring up those raised beads around it with the same color as the stencil, and I know it looks very messy to begin with, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to clean that up. I'm just very light-handedly going over those rounded portions, and then once that paint had dried, I took my white Waverly chalk paint and went around the outside rim to clean that up. And then if any of the small circles were a little bit darker than the others, I just dry brushed some of the white paint over top of those areas until it blended in really nicely. Now that all the paint has dried, I'm going to decorate this with a lamb's ear pick from Walmart, and I just pulled the two branches apart and cut them down to the same size and attach that to the bottom of the plate with some hot glue. And I'm using some of Dollar General's frosted pine cones. They have hangers on the back. You can just simply pull that off. So I placed a pine cone in the center, and then again some more of those red berries off of the Dollar Tree pick, and I'm just going to glue that down on each side. Now, if you wanted to create a hanger, you could use some of this red and white cording to create the hanger for the back, but I am going to display mine on a plate stand. And I think this turned out so beautiful. I love how this project turned out, and I hope you did too. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you have a favorite, I would love to know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you.